This module provides an overview of the TB-free program, including why it's important to control TB, how the program is funded, how the TB-free program is managed, and the history of bovine TB in New Zealand. Bovine tuberculosis, commonly known as TB, is internationally regarded as a serious and infectious disease which can infect most mammals, including humans. TB is typically spread through the close contact with carriers of the disease, as TB can be passed on by inhaled aerosol droplets or contact with exposed TB abscesses. Wildlife such as possums, ferrets, wild deer and pigs can also contract the disease by scavenging or interaction with TB-infected animals or carcasses. TB can affect the health and performance of farm cattle and deer. If TB is not managed and eventually eradicated, the possibility of an adverse reaction to New Zealand dairy, beef and deer export products could occur. The possum is the main maintenance host of TB in New Zealand, and the disease can spread amongst uncontrolled possum populations at a rate of around 5 kilometres per year. TB can be devastating and stressful to herd owners. Culling of infected animals, along with movement restrictions on herds that these animals have been found within, are imposed to help mitigate the spread of the disease of animals on other properties. Therefore, it can also have a major impact on farm management. Contracting TB in a cattle herd can also result in large financial losses, which in turn place a lot of stress on farmers. Unfortunately, there can be a social stigma attached to having a herd infected with TB, and that the infection is a result of poor farming practices. This is incorrect, as most TB-infected herds occur through no fault of the herd owner and are related to interaction with TB-infected wildlife. Where TB testing detects a high infection rate in a herd, large numbers of animals may be required to be slaughtered in order to remove the disease. A lot of good work has been done in the past 25 years to reduce the number of infected cattle and deer herds in New Zealand. Where 1,700 herds were once infected nationally in the mid-1990s, there is now less than 50 infected herds. As a result, the program is now aiming for TB freedom from cattle and deer herds by 2026, TB freedom from possums by 2040, and total eradication by 2055. To manage TB in New Zealand, there are three key components. Pest management, reducing pests that carry and spread the disease. Disease control, identifying and managing infected cattle and deer herds through TB testing and slaughter surveillance, and movement restrictions of cattle and deer, which stops the spread of TB from infected or high-risk animals. Bovine TB likely arrived in New Zealand over 100 years ago at the same time cattle and deer were brought in from Europe. In the 1960s, it was discovered in some areas of New Zealand that possums were maintaining the disease, and pest management became part of the process to remove the disease from wildlife. By 1970, all cattle herds were under regular TB testing or post-mortem inspections for the disease, and resources were focused on areas with major TB problems. In the early 1980s, following a sharp reduction in infected herds, money was reduced from the TB program and a significant resurgence of infected herds occurred. As a result, in 1994, there were 1,700 TB-infected herds throughout New Zealand. In 1998, a national strategy was formed to control TB under the Biosecurities Act. Internationally, this was the first TB control program that was a partnership between government and industry, with the investment and involvement by farmers. This was seen as one of the major keys of the program's success. Up until 2015, farmers have spent $1.3 billion managing TB. With the success of the program, we are now able to have the eradication goals and an aim towards a TB-free New Zealand. The funding model for the TB-free program comes from the dairy, beef and deer industries and the government working together. 40% of the funding comes from the government and 60% comes from industry partners and slaughter levies. Each industry partner agreed to the program's contribution based on benefits and TB risk to their individual sector of industry. Alright guys, it's question time. Remember, if you can't recall the answer to the question, replay this section. What are the 3 components that TBfree uses to manage TB in New Zealand? What are the goals that TBfree program is striving for? Why is TB a problem for farmers?